What this dying gray being showed me about Jesus' healing abilities will completely transform how you understand miracles and prayer. Before this story ends, you'll discover why millions of prayers go unanswered, not because God doesn't care, but because we've been taught to pray completely wrong. You'll learn the actual method Jesus used to perform instant healings and why the churches have hidden this knowledge for 2,000 years. If you're ready to understand why your deepest prayers haven't manifested the way you hoped, and you're prepared to discover abilities within yourself that religious institutions never wanted you to know existed, subscribe to Stories of Light and activate the bell. Because what happened to Thomas Mitchell under a bridge in Phoenix, Arizona in 1987 will open your eyes to the divine power that has always existed within you. Now let me tell you how it all began.
November 23rd, 1987, Phoenix, Arizona. The temperature had dropped to 43 degrees that night, cold enough to make my arthritis scream, but not cold enough for the shelters to open their doors to someone like me. I'd built my home under the 7th Street Bridge 3 weeks earlier, after the police had cleared out the park where I'd been staying. Home? That's a generous word for a refrigerator box reinforced with duct tape and covered with a blue tarp I'd found behind a hardware store. I was 66 years old, though most people would have guessed older. The streets age you fast. 6 months of sleeping on concrete, eating from dumpsters and fighting to stay invisible had turned my hair completely white and carved deep lines into my face that hadn't been there when Margaret was alive. That night started like any other. I'd collected enough aluminum cans to buy a can of beans and a half pint of the cheapest vodka at the corner store. The vodka wasn't for pleasure, it was medicine. The only thing that could quiet the screaming in my head long enough to sleep. The screaming that had started the day I'd found Margaret on her bathroom floor, her heart having given out while I was at the grocery store buying ingredients for her favorite dinner. I was settling into my sleeping bag, a child's Disney princess bag I'd found in a donation bin, humiliating but warm, when I heard it. A sound like thunder, but wrong somehow. Thunder rolls and fades. This sound seemed to tear through the air, leaving a strange ringing silence in its wake. Then came the lights. Blue-white, brighter than any police helicopter spotlight, moving in patterns that made no sense. The lights swept under the bridge, and for a moment I thought this was it. The cops were doing another sweep, and I'd have to grab what I could carry and run. But the light wasn't coming from above. It was coming from the empty lot across the drainage canal. My first instinct was to hunker down, make myself invisible. That's the first rule of surviving on the streets. Don't get involved, don't investigate, don't be noticed. But something else stirred in me. A feeling I hadn't experienced since before Margaret died. Curiosity. Pure, overwhelming curiosity that pushed through the fog of alcohol and despair. I crawled out of my cardboard shelter and crept to the edge of the bridge's shadow. The empty lot was about 50 yards away, full of desert scrub and garbage. But now, in the center of it, something impossible sat steaming in a small crater of disturbed earth. It was a craft of some kind, maybe 20 feet across, shaped like 2 pie plates pressed together. The surface seemed to shimmer, as if it couldn't quite decide what color it wanted to be. Steam or smoke rose from several ruptures in its hull. And there, struggling to crawl away from the wreckage, was a figure. Even from that distance, I knew it wasn't human. The proportions were all wrong. The head too large, the limbs too thin, the movements too fluid despite its obvious distress. It managed maybe 10 feet before collapsing into the dirt. Every instinct I'd developed over 6 months of homelessness screamed at me to go back to my box, to pretend I'd never seen anything. But something else, something deeper, pulled me forward. Maybe it was the way the being had struggled to crawl, reminding me of how I'd crawled across our bedroom floor trying to reach Margaret even though I knew she was already gone. Maybe it was simple human compassion, the one thing the streets hadn't managed to beat out of me yet. I crossed the drainage canal, my bad knee protesting every step, and approached the being slowly. Up close, I could see it clearly in the light still emanating from its damaged craft. Gray skin, not like any gray I'd ever seen, more like moonlight on water. The head was large, yes, but proportioned somehow correctly for the thin body. And the eyes. God, the eyes. Huge, black, reflecting the stars above us, but filled with something I recognized immediately: pain and fear. He, somehow I knew it was male, tried to scoot away as I approached, one thin arm raised defensively. That's when I saw the wound. A gash along his side leaking something that looked like liquid silver in the strange light. "Easy," I said, holding up my hands the same way I used to with frightened dogs back when I had a life. "Easy there. I'm not going to hurt you." The being's mouth didn't move, but suddenly there was a voice in my head, clear as day. "Please, help me." I should have run. Any sane person would have run. But sanity was a luxury I'd lost along with everything else. And this being was hurt, alone, afraid. Everything I'd been feeling for 6 months. "Okay," I heard myself say. "Okay, let's get you somewhere safe." He was lighter than he looked, maybe 90 pounds. His skin felt cool and smooth, like silk that had been left in shade. I managed to get my arm under him and half-carried, half-dragged him back to my cardboard home. It wasn't much, but it was hidden, and it was better than leaving him exposed in that lot. As I settled him onto my sleeping bag, his huge eyes fixed on mine, and I heard his voice in my mind again, clearer this time. "You are kind, despite your pain, despite your loss. This is unexpected." "You can read my mind?" I asked, though I suppose the answer was obvious. "Surface thoughts only. Your pain is very loud. Margaret, you blame yourself." I turned away, tears suddenly burning my eyes. Even an alien could see what a failure I was.
My name is Thomas Mitchell, though nobody had called me Thomas in years. On the streets, I was just Tom, or sometimes Professor, because I'd muttered to myself constantly, carrying on conversations with Margaret as if she could still hear me. I need to tell you who I was before I became nobody, because it matters to understand how far I'd fallen and why this being's presence meant what it did. For 38 years, I'd been a high school history teacher at Camelback High School in Phoenix. I'd loved my job with a passion that most people couldn't understand. Every day, I got to open young minds to the incredible tapestry of human experience, to show them how the past shaped the present and how they could shape the future. My students weren't just names on a roster. They were potential waiting to unfold. Margaret had been the school librarian. We'd met in 1950 when we were both fresh out of college, idealistic and ready to change the world through education. She was beautiful in a quiet way that took your breath away once you really looked. Dark hair always pinned up, green eyes behind cat-eye glasses, and a smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. We'd married in 1951, a simple ceremony in her parents' backyard. We'd tried for children for years, endured the heartbreak of 3 miscarriages before the doctors told us it wasn't meant to be. So our students, became our children. Thousands of them over the years, sending us graduation announcements, wedding invitations, birth announcements for their own children. We lived carefully, saving every penny for retirement. We had plans. Oh, did we have plans? A cross-country road trip in an RV, visiting all the historical sites I'd taught about. Maybe a cruise to Europe so Margaret could see the libraries she'd only read about. We were 6 months from retirement when it happened. April 15th, 1987, a Wednesday. I'd gone to Safeway to get ingredients for chicken parmesan, her favorite meal. I was planning it as a surprise. She'd been feeling tired lately, and I wanted to pamper her. I spent too long in the store, debating between 2 brands of mozzarella, chatting with a former student I'd run into in the produce section. 43 minutes. That's how long I was gone. 43 minutes that changed everything. I found her on our bathroom floor. The paramedics said the heart attack had been massive and quick. She probably hadn't suffered, but I suffered. God, how I suffered. After the funeral, I couldn't function. I'd stand in our bedroom, staring at her side of the closet, unable to comprehend that she'd never wear those dresses again. I'd make coffee for 2 every morning, her cup sitting on the counter getting cold, while I waited for her to come padding in wearing her yellow robe. The school gave me compassionate leave, but I couldn't go back. How could I stand in front of those kids and teach them about the meaning of historical events when life itself had lost all meaning? I started drinking. First a glass of wine with dinner, then a bottle, then whatever I could find to make the pain stop. I missed mortgage payments, the bank sent notices I didn't open, the electricity was shut off, then the water. I remember the day the sheriff came to evict me, how I'd stood on the lawn watching them change the locks on the house Margaret and I had lived in for 31 years. The neighbors watched from behind their curtains, but no one came out. What do you say to someone whose wife has imploded? My teacher's pension should have been enough, but I couldn't figure out the paperwork, couldn't make the phone calls, couldn't do anything except drink and grieve. The pension checks went to an address I no longer lived at. My savings dwindled on motel rooms until even those became too expensive. That's how you become homeless. Not all at once, but in small surrenders. First, you sleep in your car until it gets impounded for unpaid tickets. Then you try a shelter, but the violence and chaos are worse than the streets. So you find a quiet corner, then a better corner, then a cardboard box that becomes the only stable thing in your life. I'd been raised Methodist and Margaret had been Catholic. We'd attended both churches, finding beauty in both traditions. But after she died, prayer felt like screaming into an empty room. I'd kneel beside my cardboard box at night, begging God to take me too, to let me be with Margaret again. But every morning, I'd wake up still here, still alone, still breathing when she wasn't. The other homeless people avoided me mostly. I talked to myself too much, cried too often. I was bad for morale in a community that survived on dark humor and stubborn hope. Even among the discarded, I was discarded. But I wasn't violent or cruel. I shared what little I had when someone was hungrier than me. I remembered being a teacher, remembered that every person had dignity and worth, even when I couldn't find any in myself. Maybe that's why the universe decided I was the right person to find that wounded being. Or maybe it was just random chance in a reality I no longer understood. All I knew was that at 66 years old, living in a refrigerator box under a bridge, having lost everything that gave my life meaning, I was about to discover that everything I thought I knew about God, about Jesus, about the nature of reality itself, was just a tiny fraction of a much larger truth. The being's eyes closed as I made him comfortable on my sleeping bag, but I could still feel his presence in my mind. Not intrusive, just there, like the feeling of someone standing behind you. I said, "Your name? Do you have a name?" "Zara." My designation is Zara, and I was sent here to die. But finding you, this changes things." I looked at the silver fluid leaking from Zara's wound, staining my Disney princess sleeping bag with what looked like liquid starlight. My first aid kit consisted of a half-empty bottle of hydrogen peroxide and some duct tape, not exactly equipped for alien physiology. "I need to help you," I said, "but I don't know how. I don't even know what you are." Zara's huge eyes opened, fixing on mine with an intensity that should have been frightening, but somehow wasn't. "You have already helped by not running, by not calling your authorities. Most humans would have." "I'm not most humans anymore," I said, laughing bitterly. "I'm nobody. The authorities wouldn't believe me anyway. Crazy homeless guy claims he found an alien. They'd lock me in the psychiatric ward." "You are not nobody." Zara's voice in my mind was firm. "You are Thomas Mitchell, teacher of young minds, husband to Margaret Ann Mitchell. Your love for her burns so bright, I can see it from across dimensions." Hearing her full name spoken, thought, with such reverence broke something in me. I started sobbing, great heaving sobs that I'd been holding back for months. "The wound," I managed between tears. "How do I help with the wound?" "Your intention is more important than your methods," Zara explained. "Place your hands near the wound, not touching, just near. Think of Margaret. Think of how you loved her. Channel that feeling." It sounded insane, but what in my life wasn't insane anymore? I placed my shaking hands a few inches from the gash in his gray skin and thought of Margaret. Not her death, but her life. Her laugh when I'd attempt to dance in our kitchen. The way she'd curl into me while reading on Sunday mornings. How she'd defended a student who others wanted to expel, fighting for second chances because she believed everyone deserved them. Warmth spread through my palms, and I watched in amazement as the silver bleeding slowed, then stopped. The wound didn't close completely, but it stabilized. "How?" I whispered. "Your intention is more important than your methods," Zara explained. "Love is not just an emotion in your species. It is a force, a technology you've forgotten how to use. The one you call Jesus understood this perfectly." "Jesus?" I yelped. "You know about Jesus?" "Thomas Mitchell," Zara's mental voice carried something like amusement. "I know truths about Jesus of Nazareth that your churches have buried for 2 millennia. Truths that would transform your entire civilization if understood. But first, I must tell you why I am really here. You said you were sent to die. That was the plan. My people, what you would call the Greys, we observed developing civilizations. We've watched humanity for thousands of your years, but observation became complicated. Some of us began to feel, to care. This is considered a defect in my species." I laughed, actually laughed. "So you're broken like me, a broken alien, and a broken human under a bridge. If Margaret could see this?" "She can," she said simply. "Not in the way your religions teach, but consciousness persists, Thomas. Margaret's love for you didn't end with her physical form." I wanted to believe that so desperately it hurt. The churches say suicide is a sin, that I'd go to hell if I tried to join her. The churches say many things that aren't true. They've built empires on partial truths and complete fabrications. Would you like to know what Jesus actually taught about death, about consciousness, about the power every human possesses? Why would you tell me this? Why does it matter? Because I was sent to die for feeling too much, for caring about your species' suffering. But instead, I found you,
a man whose compassion survived even complete devastation. If someone like you exists, perhaps there's hope for humanity after all, and you deserve to know the truth before what? Before my people come to retrieve me. I have perhaps 7 of your days before they track my biosignature. In that time, I can share what I know about Jesus, about consciousness, about why your prayers feel unanswered, about the abilities lying dormant within you. I looked around my pathetic cardboard home at this impossible being lying on a child's sleeping bag, and my dirty hands that somehow helped heal an alien wound. What did I have to lose? I had already lost everything that mattered. "Tell me," I said. "Tell me everything." Zara's huge eyes seemed to brighten. "First, you must understand, Jesus of Nazareth was not from Earth. He was what you might call a missionary, but not for any religion. He came to activate something in human DNA, something that would allow your species to evolve beyond suffering. But those who came after him, those who built churches in his name, they buried his true teachings because empowered humans don't need institutions to connect with the divine."
Jesus wasn't from Earth? I repeated, my mind struggling to process what Zara had just shared. That's blasphemy. That's insane. Is it more insane than me lying here in your shelter? Zara asked gently. Thomas, your entire understanding of divinity has been filtered through institutions that profit from your disconnection. Jesus came from what you would call the Pleiades star system. His consciousness was so evolved that he could incarnate into human form while maintaining his cosmic awareness. I wanted to argue, to defend the faith I'd held my whole life, but something in me recognized truth in his words. All those nights praying beside Margaret's hospital bed, begging God to save her, hearing nothing but silence in response. You said our prayers feel unanswered. Why? I prayed so hard for Margaret. I prayed until my knees bled from kneeling on concrete. Zara's mental voice carried deep compassion. Because you were taught to pray wrong, Thomas. You were taught to beg an external deity, to plead from a position of powerlessness. But Jesus taught something entirely different. He said, the kingdom of God is within you, not metaphorically, literally. The creative force of the universe flows through every human, but you've been programmed to pray from lack, and lack is what manifests. I don't understand. When you prayed for Margaret's healing, what did you feel? Desperation? Fear? I felt helpless. Exactly. And that frequency, desperation, fear, helplessness, that's what you were broadcasting into the quantum field. The universe doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your vibrational frequency. Jesus knew this. When he performed what you call miracles, he didn't beg his Father. He commanded from a state of absolute certainty, absolute love. My mind reeled. So Margaret died because I prayed wrong? No, Zara's response was forceful. Margaret's transition was part of her soul's journey. Some experiences are chosen before incarnation for the evolution they provide. Your prayers didn't fail. They were simply operating on the wrong frequency. But you can learn the correct way. You can activate abilities that have been dormant in your species for millennia. Abilities? I'm a 66-year-old homeless man. I can barely keep myself alive. Your physical circumstances don't determine your spiritual power. Jesus chose fishermen and tax collectors, not kings and priests, because transformation
often comes through those who have lost everything, who have nothing left to defend. You, Thomas Mitchell, are perfectly positioned for awakening." Zara paused, his huge eyes studying me. "Would you like to show me how Jesus actually healed?" Despite everything, curiosity won. "Show me." "First, understand that what you call miracles are applications of energy technology. Every human body has an energetic template, a perfect blueprint. Disease and injury are deviations from this template. Healing isn't adding something new, it's restoring the original pattern." Like resetting a computer to factory settings? An apt comparison from a teacher. Jesus could perceive these energy templates. More importantly, he could hold the vision of the perfect template so strongly that physical matter reorganized to match his vision. This is what he meant when he said, "Your faith has healed you." Not faith in him, faith as a frequency of absolute certainty. "But I don't have faith anymore. It died with Margaret." You have something more powerful. Desperation transformed into openness. Faith built on doctrine can crumble, but direct experience creates knowing. Let me teach you something simple. Zara guided me to cup my hands, palms facing each other about 6 inches apart. Now, think of teaching, not the job, but the feeling when a student suddenly understood something. That moment of breakthrough. Hold that feeling. I remembered Jennifer Rodriguez, a student from 1973 who'd struggled with reading until one day everything clicked. The joy on her face, the light in her eyes. I held that memory. Now, slowly move your hands closer together and apart. Feel the resistance. I did, and to my amazement, I felt something, like invisible putty between my palms, warm and tingling. That's life force energy, what the Chinese called qi, what the Indians called prana, what Jesus called the Holy Spirit. It's not symbolic, it's actual creative force that flows through you. You've been generating it your entire life without knowing. This is real? I moved my hands, feeling the energy compress and expand. As real as anything in your physical world. More real, actually, because this is what creates physical reality. Jesus mastered directing this energy. When he touched lepers, he wasn't just showing compassion. He was literally reorganizing their cellular structure with directed consciousness. Why didn't the churches teach this? Zara's response carried a weight of sadness. Because people who can heal themselves, who can manifest their needs, who can connect directly to divine consciousness, they don't need intermediaries. They don't need to pay tithes for salvation. They don't need to confess to men in robes. The early followers of Jesus knew these teachings, but within 3 centuries, the knowledge was suppressed, declared heretical. The Roman Empire couldn't control empowered beings, so they created a religion of dependence instead. I felt anger rising in me, not at God, but at the institutions I'd trusted my whole life. So for 2,000 years, humanity has been kept in spiritual childhood, told you're sinners who need salvation from outside yourselves, when Jesus came to show you that you are the salvation. You are fragments of divine consciousness having a human experience, not humans begging for divine approval. My mind immediately went to the obvious explanation. I'm having a psychotic break. The trauma, the alcohol, living on the streets, I finally snapped. You're a hallucination. Zara's large eyes remained steady. If I'm a hallucination, how did you feel energy between your hands? How is the wound you saw healing? Your mind is trying to protect itself from information that challenges everything you've believed. This is natural, Thomas. Now wait, even if you're real, this could be demonic deception. The Bible warns about Satan appearing as an angel of light. You're trying to corrupt my faith with lies about Jesus. Would a demon teach you about love as creative force? Would evil show you how to heal? I haven't asked you to worship me or abandon Jesus. I'm revealing what Jesus actually taught before institutions distorted his message. Does empowerment feel like deception to you? The Catholic Church, the Protestant denominations, they've studied Scripture for 2 millennia. Thousands of theologians, scholars, saints. Who are you to say they're all wrong? Not wrong, Thomas. Incomplete. They built institutions on fragments of truth mixed with control mechanisms. The Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary, dozens of early Christian texts were declared heretical because they contained these teachings. The Council of Nicaea didn't determine truth. It determined which truths were safe for empire building. If I accept this, I rubbed my face with dirty hands. If this is true, then I've wasted my entire life. Everything I taught those kids about history, about meaning, about purpose, it was all based on lies? You taught them to think, to question, to seek truth. That was never a lie. The historical facts you shared were accurate within their context. You're not abandoning who you were, you're expanding into who you've always been capable of becoming. Evolution isn't betrayal, it's growth. Why me? I laughed bitterly. Look at me, I'm nobody special, a failed teacher living in a cardboard box who couldn't even save his wife. Why would cosmic truth be revealed to a worthless drunk under a bridge? Jesus didn't choose the powerful. He chose fishermen who smelled of their trade, tax collectors despised by society, because the broken are open. The humble can receive. Those who've lost everything have nothing defending them from truth. You're not worthless. You're perfectly prepared. 38 years, I whispered. 38 years of teaching, of going to church, of praying the way they taught. If you're right, I wasted decades. All those students I could have awakened to their true power, instead I fed them the same limitations that were fed to me. Guilt is just another frequency that keeps you trapped, Thomas. You taught what you knew with integrity and love. Every moment is a new choice point. You can't change the past, but you can transform the future. Those students, wherever they are now, they remember you. Your influence continues. This was the one that broke me. Margaret died terrified she wasn't good enough for heaven. She spent her last months worrying about whether she'd been baptized correctly, whether her sins were forgiven. She died afraid, and I let her believe she might not be saved. I should have known. I should have told her she was already divine, already perfect, already loved beyond measure. The tears came hard, and Zara waited patiently before responding. Margaret knows now, Thomas. Death is transition, not ending. The moment consciousness leaves the body, the illusions fall away. She understands everything now that she couldn't see through physical eyes. And she doesn't blame you. She's grateful for the love you shared. She wants you to forgive yourself. How can you know that? Because consciousness is connected across dimensions. Her love for you didn't end with her physical death. It transformed into something larger. She's not sitting on a cloud playing a harp. She's evolved, expanded, free, and she's waiting for you to realize that you can connect with her, not through death, but through consciousness.
You want proof? Zara said. It wasn't a question. Let me show you something. Sit still. Without touching me, Zara raised one thin hand. I felt a tingling sensation, like static electricity running through my body. You have arthritis in your left knee from an injury in 1962.
You fell off a ladder hanging Christmas decorations. 3 cracked ribs on your right side that never healed properly from a beating you took your second night on the streets. Your liver is inflamed from alcohol abuse. You have an untreated infection in your upper left molar. There's a benign tumor on your right kidney you don't know about. I stared at him. Every single thing was accurate, including the ladder fall that I'd never told anyone about except Margaret. How? Every condition creates a distinctive energy signature. This is how Jesus knew people's ailments before they spoke. He could read the energetic body as easily as you read a book. Zahra pointed to a withered cactus I'd been trying to keep alive in a coffee can, the only living thing I'd managed to save from my old life. Bring it here. I placed the dying plant between us. It hadn't been watered in weeks, its segments shriveled and brown. Zahra held his gray hands over it without touching. Watch. A soft blue-white light emanated from his palms. Before my eyes, the cactus began to change. Brown turned to green. Shriveled segments plumped with moisture. New growth appeared at the tips. Within 10 minutes, it looked healthier than it had in years. This is impossible. You can't create water from nothing. I didn't create water. I drew moisture from the air and directed it into the plant while accelerating its natural healing process. Jesus did this constantly, not just with plants, but with human bodies. This is how your scientists will eventually call directed bioenergy. Now you try. Your arthritis will start there. I can't. You've already been doing it unconsciously. Every time you think of Margaret with love instead of pain, your body releases healing chemistry. Now we'll do it consciously. He guided me to place my hands on my swollen knee. Don't think about the arthritis. Instead, remember your knee when you were young. Remember running. Remember dancing with Margaret at your wedding. Focus on gratitude for all the places this knee has carried you. Feel love for your body despite its current condition. Now, visualize golden light flowing from your heart through your hands into your knee. I felt ridiculous, but I tried. I thought of dancing with Margaret to Moonlight Serenade at our reception. My hands grew warm. The constant ache I'd lived with for months began to ease. 10 minutes, Zahra instructed, every day. This is how Jesus taught his disciples to heal, not through him, but through their own connection to divine consciousness. One more demonstration, Zahra said. Think of someone you know who's suffering. I thought of Eduardo, another homeless veteran who stayed near the library. He had diabetes and an infected wound on his foot that wasn't healing. Hold his image in your mind. Now, instead of sending worry or pity, send the frequency of perfect health. See him whole. See him healed. Feel gratitude for his wellness as if it's already accomplished. But he's miles away. Distance is irrelevant in consciousness. Jesus healed the centurion's servant without being present. Consciousness isn't limited by space or time. Send the intention. I spent 20 minutes holding Eduardo in my mind, seeing him healthy, his foot healed, his diabetes reversed. It felt like prayer, but different, active rather than begging. 2 days later, Eduardo found me. "Tom, you won't believe it. My foot, look!" He pulled off his boot. The infected wound was completely healed. And my blood sugar, the free clinic tested it 3 times. It's normal. The doctor said it's impossible, but... I looked at Zahra, who was hidden in my cardboard shelter. His huge eyes conveyed what I was finally beginning to accept. Everything I'd been taught about reality was a fraction of the truth.
Over the next 3 days, as Zahra healed in my cardboard shelter, he shared revelations that shattered what remained of my old worldview. The consciousness you know as Jesus had evolved through countless incarnations across multiple star systems, Zahra explained. He was what you might call a cosmic teacher, a being who had achieved unity consciousness and chose to incarnate on worlds approaching evolutionary leaps. So he wasn't God's only son? He was God in the sense that he fully realized his divine nature, something every human is capable of. When he said, "I and the Father are one," he was revealing universal truth about consciousness, not claiming exclusive divinity. The tragedy is that the Church turned his example into an exception, his teaching into dogma. His origin was the Pleiades cluster, what your ancient texts call the Seven Sisters. His people had evolved beyond physical form millions of years ago, but maintained the ability to incarnate when needed. Earth was approaching a critical evolutionary window, and intervention was authorized. Jesus maintained constant contact with the Galactic Federation, a coalition of evolved civilizations dedicated to nurturing emerging consciousness. When your Bible describes him going into the wilderness to pray, he was attending councils, receiving guidance on how to encode light frequencies into human DNA through his presence. The transfiguration witnessed by Peter, James, and John, that was Jesus temporarily dropping his human frequency limitation to show his cosmic form. Moses and Elijah weren't past prophets. They were other Federation members who had served Earth in different eras. Every miracle was coordinated with off-world support. The resurrection itself was planned before incarnation, a demonstration that consciousness transcends physical death, executed with technology that reconstructed his body at the subatomic level. Healing, Zara continued, is simple once you understand that bodies are energy constructs following templates. Jesus could perceive distortions and correct them through focused intention. He literally rewrote cellular programming with his consciousness. Water into wine, molecular restructuring. Walking on water, localized gravitational field manipulation. Calming storms, frequency modulation that dissipated chaotic weather patterns. These weren't violations of natural law, they were applications of laws your science hasn't discovered. The resurrection of Lazarus was the most complex, retrieving consciousness that had begun transitioning to non-physical realms and re-anchoring it in repaired biological form. This required assistance from multiple Federation members working across dimensions. When Jesus taught, "Love your enemies," he wasn't being poetic. Love is literally the fundamental force that holds atoms together, that drives evolution, that connects all consciousness. It's measurable, quantifiable. Your scientists are beginning to discover this through quantum entanglement studies. At the cellular level, love frequency promotes healing, reverses aging, optimizes DNA expression. At the mental level, it dissolves programming, opens intuition, enables telepathy. At the spiritual level, it reconnects you to source consciousness. This is why Jesus' mere presence healed people. He radiated love frequency so powerfully that diseased cells automatically realign to their healthy templates. He was a walking healing field. Your prayers fail because you pray from separation, Zara explained patiently. You position yourself as powerless beggar pleading with external authority. But Jesus taught, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe you have received it and it will be yours. Past tense, received, because in consciousness, creation is instantaneous. Physical manifestation just needs time to densify from thought to form. The correct method, feel gratitude for what you desire as if it already exists. Maintain that frequency consistently, release attachment to how it manifests. This is what Jesus meant by seek first the kingdom of heaven, align with creative consciousness, and everything else follows. After Jesus' ascension, those who understood his true teachings, Mary Magdalene, Thomas, others, tried to preserve them. But within 3 generations, the Roman Empire recognized both threat and opportunity. Threat: empowered humans wouldn't submit to imperial rule. Opportunity: a controlled religion could unify and pacify diverse populations. The Council of Nicaea wasn't about determining truth, it was about selecting which truths served empire. Reincarnation was removed because it implied multiple chances, reducing urgency to obey. Direct divine connection was replaced with priest intermediaries. Personal power became blasphemy. The kingdom of heaven was moved from within to after death. Original teaching: you are divine consciousness. Church doctrine: you are a sinful creature. Original: the kingdom is now. Church: the kingdom is after death. Original: you can do everything Jesus did. Church: only Jesus could do miracles. See the pattern? Earth is approaching what we call the consciousness revolution. The same evolutionary pressure that prompted Jesus' mission is peaking again. But this time, instead of one teacher, millions will awaken simultaneously. Your year 1987 is significant. The harmonic convergence in August opened portals that had been closed for millennia. Light frequencies are bombarding Earth, activating dormant DNA, breaking down control structures. This is why you're seeing systems collapse, institutions exposed, mass questioning of authority. The next 20 years are critical. If enough humans awaken to their true nature, we calculate the threshold at 144,000 fully activated beings. It triggers a planetary shift. Humanity transitions from separation consciousness to unity consciousness. You become a galactic civilization. Your role, Thomas, and others like you, the broken, the forgotten, the discarded, is crucial. You have nothing left to lose, no investment in maintaining illusions. You can embody these truths without compromise. Physical reality is a teaching construct. Consciousness creates matter, not the reverse. You chose to incarnate here, selected your challenges, your relationships, even your traumas, all designed to catalyze specific evolution. Margaret's death, your current circumstances, they weren't punishments or random cruelty. Your soul chose experiences that would break you open, make you available for truth. Margaret agreed to leave early to push you toward this awakening. After physical death, you review your life from expanded perspective, integrate lessons, then choose next experience. Some return to Earth, some move to other worlds, some remain in non-physical realms as guides. Margaret is currently serving as guide to 7 incarnated souls, including you. I sat in stunned silence, processing revelations that challenged everything, yet somehow felt true. The ultimate truth, Zara concluded, is that you are eternal consciousness, temporarily focused in human form. You're not body with soul, you're soul using body as experience vehicle. And the one you call Jesus came to remind you of this, to activate your remembering.
By the 4th day, I could no longer deny what I'd experienced. This wasn't belief I was adopting. It was recognition of truth I'd always sensed but couldn't articulate. The teachings felt like remembering rather than learning. The tears came in waves, not grief anymore, but relief. 40 years of feeling unworthy, decades of begging an absent God, the crushing weight of Margaret's loss, all of it based on illusion. I wasn't broken, I was breaking open. I started practicing on myself. Each morning, I placed hands on my arthritic knee, channeling gratitude and love. By day 3, I could bend it without pain for the first time in years. I manifested small things, Finding a $20 bill, a fresh sandwich appearing in the dumpster just as I arrived. Coincidence? Maybe, but the coincidences kept multiplying. Colors became more vivid. I started seeing faint light around people. Auras, Jahara confirmed. I knew when someone was lying, when they were ill, when they needed help. Precognitive flashes warned me of police sweeps. My intuition, always strong, became almost supernatural. My health transformed rapidly. The infection in my tooth disappeared, my liver inflammation reduced, energy I hadn't felt in years coursed through me. People started offering me food, clothing, even temporary work. Money appeared in unexpected ways, finding recyclables worth $40. A woman randomly handing me $50 saying she felt compelled. My nightly prayers transformed. Instead of, "God, please help me survive another day," they became, "Thank you for perfect health, abundance, and divine guidance flowing through me now." Instead of begging for Margaret's forgiveness, I felt her presence, her love, her encouragement to live fully. I was no longer Tom the homeless failure. I was Thomas Mitchell, eternal consciousness, having a temporary human experience, here to demonstrate that transformation is possible at any age from any circumstance. My cardboard box wasn't shameful shelter, it was my chrysalis. On the 6th day, Jahara announced his people would retrieve him that night. "You no longer need me, Thomas. You have direct connection to the same consciousness that guided Jesus. Your mission is clear. Live these truths so radiantly that others ask what changed. Don't preach, demonstrate. I'll teach," I promised. Not in classrooms, but through example. Every person I meet, I'll see their divine nature, even if they can't. I'll heal when guided, manifest when needed, love unconditionally. Not because I'm special, but because this is what humans are capable of when we remember who we are.
On the 7th day, just hours before Zara's departure, he shared final revelations that would forever change how I understood existence itself. "Thomas," his mental voice carried urgency now, "there are things about your species' history that have been deliberately hidden. Your archaeology finds evidence of advanced ancient civilizations, Atlantis, Lemuria, but dismisses them as myth. They were real, and they fell for the same reason your current civilization risks falling. They forgot their connection to consciousness." I sat closer, knowing our time was limited. My cardboard shelter had become a classroom for cosmic truth. 12,000 years ago, humanity had already achieved what you call enlightenment on a planetary scale. They worked with us openly. Star beings were teachers, healers, scientists, collaborating with human consciousness. But power corrupts, even spiritual power. Some began using consciousness technology for domination rather than liberation. The Great Flood in your Bible? A consciousness reset, when a civilization becomes so corrupted that it threatens other dimensions, intervention becomes necessary. But seeds of truth were preserved in Egypt, Tibet, Peru. Jesus came from our coalition to reactivate those seeds because humanity was ready to try again. Zara's huge eyes reflected the dim light filtering through my tarp. But this time, the awakening cannot be centralized in one teacher or teaching. It must be distributed. Millions of humans remembering simultaneously, each becoming their own spiritual authority. He guided me outside, where the pre-dawn sky was beginning to lighten. "Look at the stars, Thomas. Every point of light is a sun with worlds around it. On thousands of those worlds, consciousness is evolving just like here. You're not alone in the universe. Earth is part of a vast community of ascending civilizations. Why don't you just land openly? Tell everyone." Free will is the prime directive. Consciousness must choose evolution. It cannot be forced. We can inspire, teach individuals like you, leave signs, but mass contact only comes after a species achieves certain consciousness thresholds. You're close. Perhaps another generation, if enough, choose awakening over sleep. Back in the shelter, Zara pulled something from what I'd thought was his skin, but realized was some kind of biological suit. A small crystal, no bigger than a fingernail, pulsing with soft blue light. This is condensed consciousness technology, he explained, placing it in my palm. It won't give you powers, you already have those, but it will amplify your intention, help you maintain higher frequencies when doubt creeps in. Hide it, use it sparingly. When you hold it during meditation, you'll receive continued teachings. The crystal felt warm, almost alive. I wrapped it carefully in cloth from Margaret's old handkerchief, one of the few possessions I'd kept. There's something else about Jesus' crucifixion, Zara continued. It wasn't failure, it was the plan. He needed to demonstrate that consciousness survives bodily death, that resurrection isn't metaphor, but technology. His death and return were designed to break humanity's deepest fear. Fear of death? Fear of death keeps humans trapped in survival consciousness, unable to access higher frequencies. When you truly understand that you're eternal, that death is just transition, you become fearless. And fearless beings cannot be controlled. The blood ritual of communion, eating his body, drinking his blood, the church turned it into cannibalistic symbolism. But Jesus was trying to convey DNA activation. His blood carried frequency codes. Those who were present, who truly connected with him energetically, had their genetics altered. Their descendants carried dormant abilities waiting for activation. Am I one of them? No, Thomas, but that doesn't matter. DNA activation can happen through consciousness alone now. The 100-monkey effect. When enough humans activate, it becomes available to all. You're part of the activation team, whether by bloodline or choice, doesn't matter. Zara stood, his thin form casting strange shadows. Dawn was breaking. My people will come soon. Before I go, let me show you something about Margaret. He placed his hand on my forehead, and suddenly I could see her, not imagination, actual perception across dimensions. She was radiant, appearing about 30 years old, surrounded by golden light. She was teaching a group of newly transitioned souls, helping them understand their death experience. Tom, her voice was clear as day. My beautiful Tom, I'm so proud of you. Keep learning, keep teaching. I'm not gone, I'm just in the next room. When your time comes, I'll be waiting, but not yet. You have work to do. The vision faded, but the feeling remained. Peace. Complete, absolute peace. She watches over you, Zara confirmed. Every breakdown, every moment of despair, she's been sending you strength. You couldn't feel it through the alcohol and grief, but it was always there. Can I talk to her? With practice, yes. Meditation, not medication. Clear consciousness, not clouded. The crystal will help, but don't become dependent on it. It's training wheels, not the bicycle. A low humming filled the air, not heard, but felt, vibrating through my bones. They're here, Zara said simply. We emerged from my cardboard shelter. Above, hidden by the bridge's shadow, a craft hovered silently. It looked nothing like movie UFOs, more like crystallized light, shifting between solid and translucent. Will I see you again? Not in this form, but consciousness connects across all dimensions. When you hold the crystal, when you teach others, when you heal, we'll be supporting from our dimension. You're never alone, Thomas. No human is. They just forgot how to perceive the support. A column of blue-white light descended from the craft, surrounding Zara.
Remember, his final message echoed in my mind as he began to fade into the light. You're not spreading new religion, you're awakening memory. Every human knows these truths at soul level. You're just helping them remember. Don't create followers, create teachers. Don't build churches, create consciousness. The light intensified, and then both Zara and the craft were gone, leaving only the normal morning sky and the sound of early traffic beginning on the bridge above. I stood there, a 66-year-old homeless man in dirty clothes, holding an alien crystal and the truth about human potential. 6 months ago, I wanted to die. Now I had reason to live, not just for myself, but for everyone still sleeping, still suffering, still believing they're powerless. The sun broke over the horizon, painting the desert gold. Somewhere, Margaret was smiling. Somewhere, Zara was reporting that humanity had hope. And under a bridge in Phoenix, Arizona, Thomas Mitchell began his real teaching career, not in classrooms, but in consciousness.
After Zara's departure, his people came in a silent craft that looked like a star moving wrongly. My life transformed in ways I couldn't have imagined. Within a week, Eduardo wasn't the only one experiencing healing. Word spread through the homeless community about Professor Tom, who could ease pain with his hands. I was careful, subtle, always making it seem like natural improvement, but people knew. A social worker named Patricia found me 3 weeks later. Her migraines had vanished after I'd quietly sent healing energy while she was distributing sandwiches. She didn't understand what had happened, but she knew it connected to me. I've arranged transitional housing, she said, a small apartment, and Phoenix Community College needs substitute teachers. I pulled some strings. By spring of 1988, I was teaching again. Not history, but adult literacy. My students were immigrants, recovering addicts, people rebuilding lives. I taught reading and writing, but I also taught them their own power. Not explicitly. I'd learned that direct teaching triggered resistance. Instead, I demonstrated. When Maria worried about her sick child, I guided her to pray differently. When James couldn't find work, I showed him visualization exercises. When Linda's diabetes worsened, I taught her meditation for health. Always secular terms, always practical application, but encoded with truth Zara had shared. The results spoke for themselves. My students didn't just learn to read, they transformed. Maria's daughter recovered completely. James found not just a job, but a career. Linda's diabetes reversed, baffling her doctors. Margaret's presence grew stronger. Not imagination or wishful thinking, but actual communication. She guided me to people who needed help, warned me of dangers, celebrated victories. Death wasn't separation. It was just a different form of connection.
If you're still watching, Thomas Mitchell's journey reveals something you may have suspected but never had courage to fully embrace. You have more power than you've been taught. Much more. The churches, the religions, the institutions that claim to speak for God, they've kept you small, not from malice, but from their own fear. Fear that if you knew your true nature, you wouldn't need them anymore. Jesus didn't come to create a religion of dependency. He came to demonstrate what every human can become. When he said, "The kingdom of God is within you," he meant it literally. When he said, "You will do greater works than I," he wasn't being modest. He was stating fact. You are not a powerless sinner waiting for external salvation. You are divine consciousness having a temporary human experience. The abilities Jesus demonstrated, healing, manifestation, transformation, these are your birthright, not because you're special, but because you're human. And being human means possessing divine potential that most never activate. Now you have a choice. You can close this video and return to the comfortable illusion that you're powerless, that life happens to you, that God is a distant judge evaluating your worthiness. Or you can do what Thomas did. Start experimenting with these principles. Begin treating prayer as manifestation technology rather than desperate supplication. Channel love frequency consciously and watch reality respond. Leave a comment and tell me, have you experienced moments where your thoughts seem to create reality? Times when you felt connected to something greater? Unexplained healings? Prayers answered in ways too perfect for coincidence? Share your story below. You might discover you're not alone in these experiences. Your story might be the catalyst that helps someone else remember who they really are. If you want more stories like this, stories that challenge everything you thought you knew about Jesus, spirituality, and human potential, subscribe to Stories of Light and activate the bell, because Thomas isn't the only one who has encountered beings with these revelations. There are more stories, more witnesses, more evidence that everything you were taught about religion is incomplete. Remember, Jesus' return is not him coming from the sky to save you. Jesus' return is you awakening to the Christ consciousness that has always existed within. You are the second coming. Not because you're Jesus, but because you're finally becoming who Jesus came to show you that you are. The kingdom of heaven isn't a distant place you might reach after death if you're good enough. The kingdom of heaven is here, now, within you, waiting to be activated. Thomas Mitchell found it in a cardboard box under a bridge. Where will you find yours?